Hello and welcome to the Metapod podcast, Pokemon podcast that is live around the evolving meta, or, well, I guess this technically isn't live, but
it's live for us, Jake.
Yeah, we're back in full force, back on time, about 24 hours until the episode actually airs. You know, no traveling, nothing involved, although I'm moving soon, so gonna try to travel around the podcast.
Yeah.
So then we can have back-to-back weeks of in-person. But Sean, it's been a bit since we talked, actually. How have you been?
I've been good. I had my trip, went to the West Coast, did not play any Pokemon while I was out there. Just looked
also, West Coast didn't visit me?
Well, I wasn't
What?
I wasn't that far south. I was up in the Redwood Forest. I was touching grass, Jake. I was out there touching grass and hugging trees. Big trees.
Yeah. I don't know anything about grass. It was quite literally 120 degrees yesterday here in Vegas. 120.
That's awful, Jake. That's terrible.
I was like, I mean, I just stayed inside. But I was moving stuff into my new house, but I started moving stuff like before 9 a.m. And then once like 10 a.m. hit, you know, I didn't need my friend's truck anymore. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to spend the day like working and packing. And holy smokes, am I glad I did that.
Yeah, it's hot everywhere. Like we were up in Portland and it was mostly fine, but like the last of the weekend that we were there, Portland was going to be at like 100 degrees at one point, which I mean, like, I don't know. I'm not from Portland. I don't know how common that is. It feels wildly uncommon. Like 100 degrees in Portland on the West Coast feels crazy to me.
Yeah, because you're like so far north.
Right. Yeah. So I'm sure crazier things have happened, but I was not expecting that. Let's say that. So. But
there's a lot of news that has come out in the last couple weeks in terms of the Pokemon trading card game in different areas as well. And we're going to talk about some. We're going to talk about some updates on some because there are some updates to the news stories that we provided in the last couple of weeks on the podcast. So, Sean, let's just get into it. There's a couple things to talk about in here. First off, this one really surprised me when I saw it, but I guess doesn't really surprise me at all. Paradox Fury Premium Collection and a Greninja bundle is going to be exclusively releasing on Amazon this holiday season, or what is presumably this holiday season.
Yeah. I mean, it says September 6th.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Well,
but
I think the one. So there's two different boxes that we're going to talk about in here. There is the Ancient Paradox Fury Premium Collection. It's got a jumbo card of Raging Bull and then different promo cards of Walking Wake, Raging Bull, and Gouging Fire alongside some packs. That one I think is coming out on September 6th. There's currently no price for it. There was a price originally, but then went away. So I don't want to say get anybody's hopes up or down or whatever. It also comes with a magnetic 3-card holder.
Interesting.
Do we know what a magnetic 3-card holder is? Is that like the Charizard EX boxes where it had like that picture frame?
Yeah, I think it's like, you know, like the one-touch cases that you can get, the ones that had like the special Pokemon art around it, like a physical case where you can put a fancy card inside of it and show it off. I think that's what it is.
I don't, but I think I can visualize
Here,
it.
I can go grab a not fancy version.
So looking at the packs, we don't exactly know in there, but it looks like there's some of the recent set.
So Jake, you know, like these like one touch, you can kind of, it's very glary, but like these little holders that you get for your card.
Oh yeah. I have one of those for like my alternate One Piece leader. Actually.
Exactly. So I think what I'm imagining is it's one of the ones that can hold 3 different cards side by side.
Mm-hmm.
And
okay, that's cool.
Yeah, and like it might be interestingly designed. I know that they, like you were talking about, they did do that in the past with one of the premium collections where
I think Charizard, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll be interested to see how the design is. I don't know if I would put these cards in that case because these cards are going to be worth a pittance. But
Sean, the value does not matter. It is whatever your favorite cards are
Sure.
that you can put there. But I think actually the design is already on the box. I think like
Yeah.
Sean, if you're looking at any visual people on YouTube or Spotify video, I think it's this like gold kind of border thing around the cards. I think that's the
case, yeah.
frame. Yeah, that would make sense, I think.
I mean, look, I like custom frames like this. It's fun. People like, honestly, I look at this and I'm like, the packs are going to be worth something. And honestly, I think the second most valuable thing in this premium collection is probably going to be the frame.
Yeah, probably.
Because the cards themselves, I don't believe this is, at least what's shown off, is not any new art, right? This is all the same art. So, and none of these cards are particularly expensive. Like the Raging Bolt is the most played right now, but even that's only probably a couple bucks.
You're basically paying for the 7 booster packs that you get inside, and then the magnetic 3 card holder and a jumbo card if you want.
Yeah, yeah. People do like that jumbo card, but yeah.
Oh yeah. I still, every time I think of a jumbo card, I just think of Matthew, I think his name is, playing the jumbo card deck at one of the events.
And then the other product that you were alluding to earlier is there's a Greninja EX Battle Deck and 2 booster bundle. This one also says September 6th. So, who knows? But
so maybe I was just wrong.
I mean, they say at the bottom, these are probably meant to be Amazon's holiday exclusives. So maybe they'll run on Amazon through the holiday season as exclusives on Amazon. But this one is the Bad Greninja EX as a EX battle deck and 2 packs. So it's it's fine. Probably includes just 1 EX card because it's a level 1 EX battle deck. I think
it's meant to be the the theme decks,
right?
That's just what it is.
Yeah, it might be like a cute product if you're getting it for like somebody's kid who's into Pokemon. Maybe they don't really play the game all that much. Certainly, like they're not competitive necessarily, but like, hey, it's a new deck. I have a new deck for $25. Sounds great. But yeah, I mean, they're interesting products. I think the price tags, to be honest, I don't know, $25 for the EX battle deck and two packs. I'm like, I'm doing that math in my head, Jake, and it's not mathing.
I'm trying to, what's the Greninja EX battle deck? Like, what's the MSRP on that? Like, GameStop is selling it for $10, right? Amazon, $12, Noble Knight, $10. So it's like a $10 thing. And
plus
then,
2 packs.
So you're paying what, 16?
No, 26.
For the No. I mean 16 for the 2 packs inside of it. So
right.
10 for the battle deck, and then
$8 a pack.
Yeah, $8 a pack. Not a great deal.
That's not honestly. I know we're not usually too critical, but like this one's a skip if ever I've seen one.
But the thing is that I mean, I don't necessarily like the price on this, but thinking about like Amazon in general, like Amazon is not the place like you go to sell and buy like booster boxes, right?
Yeah.
Like Amazon is the place where parents, when their kids want to buy a bulk set of 100 random cards to give them, Amazon has huge sales in this category of like just randomly assorted cards that parents get, for their kids.
Sure.
And so this is kind of like a step up version of that, I feel like. So I like this partnership in general. I just wish the price wasn't so high, but maybe the packaging will be insane.
I mean, maybe. Look,
because right now it looks awful.
I'm just saying, if anybody listening to this pod is looking for a gift, look elsewhere. In my opinion, I'm just like, you could just buy the EX Battle Deck and 4 packs for the same price. So just do that.
You could. I will say the Paradox Fury collection looks cool, though. I think that's cool.
The magnetic card holder too is really cool. Like again, that's what like the packs themselves are just worth whatever the packs are worth. Like that's kind of a wash. If you really like, or if somebody really likes the big card, fine. The 3 cards that it comes with are thematically cool, but not really particularly valuable. But really, the magnetic card case is, for me, Like, if you want that, this is how you're going to have to get it, most likely. So, that is, I think, what's going to push people to buy this product or not.
Mm-hmm.
But the other one does not have that. The other one does not have any exclusive anything. It's just a repackaging of products already available elsewhere, which is a little weird.
But if you do want something cool, fantastic, extraordinary that is maybe a little bit more than this, you'll have to wait until December to be able to get this. Sean, Eevee Heroes 2.0 is going to be coming in the Pokemon trading card game, labeled as Terastal Festival, the name of the annual high class pack in Japan, kind of like V-Star Universe, things like that. For anyone who has listened to the podcast for a while, it's going to be featuring Eevee and its evolutions as different EXs. So probably going to be in Terra, as it mentions on Poke Beach, because, we've seen Terra Pokemon. That's the theme of this. In the past, we've seen, these special cards be shiny Pokemon. So instead of shiny Pokemon, they're going to probably be Terras. Maybe they'll still be shiny. Who knows?
That's interesting. I wonder what a shiny Terra, like, are the shiny versions of the evolutions particularly? I guess Umbreon is green. That's weird, right?
Yeah, I actually genuinely do not know what it looks like, because like their terraforms give them a like glass kind of shading or tint of that specific color that is the type of their Terra. So I don't know what green, like lime green Espeon would look like with that with that purple tint.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think they'll probably keep them as just terastallized and not shiny, if I had to guess.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I'm like,
I would like that.
Yeah, and I think people generally would like that too, like the classic look of the evolutions, but in a terastallized form. Yeah, I mean, Go ahead.
I was going to say, there's still a lot unknown about this. We just really know the name and some of the description alongside of it. But I was going to list off the different kind of products that it's going to have.
Yeah, rock and roll.
There's also going to be sets of products that include like card sleeves that have Eevee on it, collection files, which is Eevee, which collection file. Is that just another word for binder?
Maybe. It might be, yeah.
A rubber playmat of Eevee. Very excited for this Eevee playmat, because I know the one that they did previously with the Radiant Eevee. Do you remember that playmat? That was such a cool playmat, and I'm still mad that I missed out on it because it looks so good. There's also a long cardboard box Eevee collection, damage counter case for Eevee, carrying case Eevee collection, and a plush deck case Eevee.
Ooh,
they can have
plush deck case. I like.
That's interesting. I think I've seen that somewhere before recently. Maybe it was like not an official Pokemon thing, but I don't know how I feel about my deck box having fur on it, to be honest. Maybe I'm boomer in that sense.
I will say I have the Pikachu plush deck case.
Oh, so is it
great.
an actual Pokemon thing?
Yeah. Well, so I have so many products, Jake. Give me a second.
Yeah. Welcome to the Metapod podcast, where we just go around and show around all the stuff that Sean has here for you today.
Okay. So this is the official one.
I think I remember you showing that one time on the podcast.
It's got like Velcro on the front. It zips. It's very good. It's quite sturdy.
It's basically nice. The McDonald's kids box of Pikachu, except it's a deck box.
Yeah, except it's a deck box and it's plushy. For those listening, it's just a squishy, plushy deck box. I think it's one of those, those plastic deck boxes that you get that have the Velcro attachments?
Yeah.
It's that that's that material, but it's just it's got like a sewn, like plushy cover over the whole deck box. Plus this one's got like little ears. I think the unofficial one that you've probably seen, Jake, is from Usagi Draws, and I have the Eevee and the Umbreon. Yes. So this,
I was gonna say, I remember that name.
Yeah, this is the unofficial one. I'm a little bright on this camera, but it'll probably be better quality than the Usagi Draws. The Usagi Draws one is fine, but I think the Pikachu one is also a slimmer profile, which I prefer. But
Hmm.
I do like that they're going to do more of these plush deck cases. I really love them. I just think they're so cute. You can either
I
put,
think they'll sell really well too.
oh yeah, yeah, this Pikachu one. Uh, I know every time that I bring it out, people are always like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool," because they're usually Japan exclusives too. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, um,
So I think but this is all stuff I think that is coming out in Japan, though, like the
yeah,
products that we just listed and kind of talked about. So don't be crossing your fingers and toes and thinking, or well, cross your fingers and toes and hope that it comes in English as well. I would assume that some of these things are going to be coming, but we never know. There is a Sylveon Stellar EX pre-constructed deck coming out in Japan on August 30th. So that is probably going to be, I would think, one of the cards that is in this like evolution set, right? Because it is a stellar and this whole thing is about stellar evolutions. So
yep.
that's what I think.
And this is just a reminder. This is our high class pack set in Japan. So like,
Yes.
every year they do one. So we'll probably get a version of this set either mid next year, early next year, or like a year later. Who
I
knows the
thought
time frame?
usually I thought like for the last ones, it was like in February or March
Yeah,
or
like Crown
whatever.
Crown Zenith would have been our version of that, and then I was Crown Zenith this year or last year. What's this year's?
Uh, I think it was this year.
Okay, well, whatever they were, there was Crown Zenith, and there was maybe something else after that. But yeah, yeah, they have been doing it a little closer, like around 6 months window.
Hmm.
I think that partially has to do with these high class pack sets. Sometimes I don't know if Crown Zenith was included in that, but like sometimes they'll include unique cards, and so they need to get printed in English in order to be like put into the competitive pool. But sometimes if they're all reprint sets, they'll wait longer. Who knows? Point being, it'll come out between 5 and 12 months after is when we'll get our crack at it.
And it'll be extremely difficult to get. So if you get your hands on some, make sure that you enjoy it. But there is some other news. I don't have my playmat, so my mouse on flicking through these news things is so difficult because it's just on this,
Well,
you know, table.
I will
What do
say
we have next, Sean?
the next thing that we have on the list is about reprints in Japan. So
Oh.
I wanted to bring this up because, especially now that we know that there's an EV set in EV Heroes 2.0 coming out, there's been a
Hmm.
lot of talk in the collector community, whatever your opinion is of it, it's fair, but like about like, oh, like people like spent a lot of money to get 151 and EV Heroes, and then they did all of these reprints, right? And Japan, I think it's a little surprising because Japan, I don't think in the past was as reprint heavy as they have been the last maybe year.
Hmm.
But yeah, just they're reprinting a bunch of Scarlet and Violet sets. So almost all the Scarlet and Violet sets are now restocked in Japan. Um, and I think that's I wanted to just note that in case one, in case you're interested in buying any, but two, Terastal Festival, the future sets coming out, just know that Japan is taking a much more aggressive approach to reprinting. So if you don't get your hands on the product immediately, I don't think that it is a bad idea to hold for a reprint rather than like pay exorbitant scalper prices.
And it's important to note that these reports of the reprints and restocks are happening at Japan Pokemon centers.
Yep.
So official Pokemon TCG places. First time since the initial reprint runs, they're printing all of these Scarlet and Violet ones that you said, and then also Pokemon 151 is coming in. A lot of these available on the Pokemon TCG website, on the Pokemon Center website in Japan.
Yeah. So that would be my gut. Just as a note, like they're being very aggressive on their reprints in Japan. They're being very aggressive on stopping scalping in Japan by like opening boxes at airports. I don't know if you've seen. Have you seen that, Jake?
What? Say that
Like
again.
if you buy a box at the Pokemon Center at the airport, they will actually open the plastic on the outside before they sell it to you.
Well, the thing is, I think as well Or, well, no, I didn't know that, but like I know everybody jokes about getting checked at security for their decks, in their
Well, sure.
bags that they bring on the plane.
Yeah.
That was my first thought, but I realized that didn't make sense.
No, no, but they're opening the outer layer of packaging in order to
Yeah.
prevent scalpers, like people coming in,
Hmm.
buying like a bunch of boxes, and then immediately like shipping them out, getting on a plane, whatever.
That
Um,
is in my one of my stores over here in Las Vegas did that the other day for a One Piece release. There was a new like expansion that
yeah,
released a couple weeks ago for One Piece, and they sold it. They sold two options. Like you could either get a sealed box, or if you wanted to get a discounted price on it, which I think was like 25% discount of what they were selling the sealed box, they would tear the packaging on there for you. And I was like, yeah, let me get one. And they're like,
yeah.
rip that seal off, baby. Save me some money.
No, I love that. I
Yeah.
think that for any moment that there's a card game or a product that's like very desirable and a very limited supply, um, I think that's a really smart way for local game stores to do it because yeah, you don't want to be the game store. A, you don't want to scalp your own customer base. That feels bad. But
Yeah.
you don't want to sell under market and then have like a few scalpers come in, take up all your product, and then all your locals don't get it. So I think it's a nice in between. If you're planning on opening it anyways, what does it matter, right? So it's like
Yeah,
fine.
that's what I'm saying. Like even like if I was gonna open it for content, right? Like extra episode on the Metapod, opening the box, I would just like take a video of me at the store and be like, hey, just to let you know, these guys are gonna open my box
Yeah.
real quick so that I can save like $45 on it or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
I'm up for saving $45, in this economy.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the news on product stuff.
Hmm.
And I think now, Jake, we can hop over to the updates on the stories that we covered because we recorded a little ahead of time. Some of these
Oh yeah.
updates came out literally the day or the day after we recorded, and it was like, wow, a classic Pokemon company.
And then at
Um,
like 11 p.m. the night before the episode drop, I had to record a little snippet of like, hey, just to let you know, this is yeah.
yeah, there's a little bit of news, but we think that our suspicions were pretty on point.
Yeah,
Uh,
actually, our suspicions were on point. But
yeah.
before we get into that, because I'm sure longtime listeners of the Metapod will know exactly what we're talking about on that, we're going to give the first update first that the Pokemon Trading Card Game Illustrator Contest, there's an update for that where they disqualified 6 entries from the announcement. They made like an announcement that there were some people that were breaking the rules. I think it was a quote. Let me pull up the actual quote. It just says violated the official contest rules and that they've been disqualified from the contest if they did it. There's no mention, we talked about in the first time that we went over this how there was definitely some that were either created by AI or had multiple entries under different names, but like very similar names. So you could tell that it was like the same person. So, that person, obviously, Pokemon's not going to say whether they banned them for AI or multiple entries because they broke they broke the entries rule. So they're just taking out and then saying, yes, rules. They broke the rules.
Yeah.
So, um, just want to let you guys know that those submissions were taken out of the contest. But one thing that I did love that they did, Sean, they took out 6 entries, but then they put back in 6 entries.
Yeah. Good for them. That's great.
They replaced some of those, so go check those out if you haven't. I love the Absalom made by Hitoya Sumi. Hopefully that one is a winner. I would love to see that on a card, especially with the Absalom drinking out of the water with the moon shining on it. I think is very nice. So winners will be announced in September. There will be 3 winners alongside of it, along with like some other winners, but the 3 winners will get promo cards just like the ones that we got last year we don't know how we would get those promo cards. They could be distributed in different ways, but last year it was if you purchased something from the Pokemon Center, you could add it to your cart, those promo cards, and they're beautiful. I own them and I love them.
Yep. No, this was dope. So I was dead wrong. My suspicion was that they wouldn't say anything, but they would ensure that that artist didn't win. But
Hmm.
yeah, as you mentioned, didn't explicitly call out AI. I think that's partly because in their rules there was no mention of AI.
Yeah.
So like it's
It
a
just so
weird.
happened to coincidentally, like this person did both AI
Yeah.
and multiple entries.
So I imagine that next year it probably will be in the rules that like, entrants cannot use generative AI or whatever. But
Which on it, I mean, it's all about if they want to go that route. This is still too ambiguous to
yeah,
understand. Like the point that I had mentioned when we first originally talked about the use of AI in this contest, that we don't know if Pokemon actually is okay with AI. They could be okay with AI in their art, but who knows in that one. But we do know that it will not be winning this year. So if you're
yes.
like me and you don't like AI art, then win for us.
And then the last piece of news, the big update, which we can go a little bit more into detail in this week, is
The big update.
big update is TPCI has revealed the official limits for like worlds invites, etc. for next year. There's been a lot of discussion from a lot of your favorite content creators and
Hmm.
top tier players on this already. Um, but the TLDR. I'll just go over the numbers real quick. TLDR, but the main thing to note is that in the US and Canada, as well as Europe, it's 125 masters each. And then as you go down the bracket of senior and junior, it goes to 100 and then 75, respectively. Latin America gets 100 masters, 50 and 50, juniors and seniors. The one that is surprising to me in terms of the number, especially if you compare it to this year, is Oceania. It is a
Hmm.
much smaller region, so I'm sure they're trying to balance out total player counts, etc. But Oceania getting 20 masters, 10 and 10 in terms of junior and senior. And then the newer region, Middle East and South Africa, you get 10 masters, 5 and 5. So definitely a sharp drop from what we have this year in terms of the numbers of people who qualified. For reference, US and Canada had 271 total masters. Europe had 299. Latin America had 299. I think Oceania had I can't remember, a decent amount, like 100 or something like
Hmm.
that. So a sharp drop from this year's qualification numbers, but Jake, I know that you, especially on our discussion last week, you were very much in favor of making an invite for World something truly special. And I just wanted to get your take. How do these numbers feel in terms of like your perception of what the tournament should be?
And just to clarify, I think, whatever your goal is, if, you got your world's qualification this year, that is special,
Oh
right?
yeah,
You
nothing to
met the
take away.
standards and you qualified for worlds. Yeah, yeah. I just want to make that clear that if the rule says that this qualifies for worlds, great, you qualified for worlds. But I do like the idea of this becoming more exclusive, right? This tournament becoming more of a higher standard, right? In order to qualify. Yes, I mean, there's this idea, and a lot of people bring this up, right? A lot of people I've seen over the last couple of weeks have started to mention, like, okay, I now cannot qualify for worlds, right? Like my grind for qualifying for worlds top 125 is not over. And those are people like, like you and I, we're
Yeah.
not going to really any, like, I didn't go to any majors this year in this competitive season. You went to NAIC and that was it. Or you went to NAIC and what other one?
Hartford, or it was Hartford last year. I don't know.
I think
I
Hartford
think
was last year.
maybe, yeah, maybe I only went to NEIC this year. Net, we didn't go to many between us.
Yeah, yeah. We didn't try to
No.
qualify for worlds, but like if we did want to try to qualify for worlds, the standard that we wanted to be at, it's going to be a lot more difficult. Like I was thinking about chasing trying to go for my 2025 invite, but now seeing this being that I have to be the top 125 in the event is, I'm not going to say demoralizing, because to me, like, it's not demoralizing. It's just like, okay, I'm probably not going to qualify for Worlds, so I should, because I don't practice enough, I don't play enough, I don't travel right because of like my job and stuff. But this is a severe, not severe, that's not the right word. It is a huge shift. It is a huge change into the method, because it gives a cap on who can actually go, instead of just a checkpoint essentially for people in order to qualify. So with the top 4 invites, in ICs and like regionals, the people that get the automatic qualifications for Worlds, it's a little uncertain to tell how many of those people will actually make it, like how many people will actually have. I expect about half of the 270-ish, 280-ish will make
It's a
it
good
in
number.
from next year. We'll have like 140 to 135
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, I would buy that.
Yeah, so it's just going to be interesting to see how it goes aside from that. But I think one of the biggest things that like a lot of people aren't thinking about is Pokemon specifically said, like, in their announcement, like, regarding this, that there will be more information soon coming out about the local level, right? Of
Yeah.
the of that. So I think players are quick to look at this and be like, what the heck, Pokemon? Like, you doomed me in a sense. But I think Pokemon is going to be adding some sort of like step ladder to, like we were mentioning, how like, it's either Worlds or like
Yeah.
locals, like that's it. So I think they're going to be making stuff to higher incentivize, like, not just chasing a Worlds invite.
Yeah. And I want to point out too, from a CP standpoint, there is
Mm-hmm.
there has been a huge emphasis placed on doing well at major events, specifically regionals and internationals, because
Playing in major events. I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah,
Not
like
making day 2 and getting points, I still have strong feelings about
yeah,
that.
yeah, fair, but like doing well, like getting probably like top 128, right?
Yeah.
And the reason I mention that, it's not on the article, but like on Pokemon's website, they detail the point thresholds for all the different
Mm-hmm.
things now. And a couple things to remember, to note, that are new this next year. Best finish limits for locals, which is challenges
Oh
and
yeah.
cups, is now
Mm-hmm.
4 instead of 6. And 6 was already a reduction from 8 the previous year. So
Mm-hmm.
you can only get 4 top finishes between all of those, which means your points for cups max out at 200, which
Mm-hmm.
is, whatever. Some people will need those points to get into the top 125, I think. I think there will be a window at the bottom where the differences in the local level make or break you being in that top 125 at the end of the season. But if you think about it from a challenge perspective, like, you max out at 60 points if you get first in 4 challenges. And it kind of is like, I think challenges are a good place to practice. But if you're really going for a World's invite, I don't think that challenges matter anymore. Just straight up. I think they were already a little suspect in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
But to Jake's point, I do think that for a lot of locals who aren't going to go for a World's invite, challenges and cups are, that local like thing, and I
That's
think,
it. That's
yeah.
all that you have.
And I think that, I really hope Pokemon does, I'm sure they already have ideas, but like, take a piece out of One Piece's book, right? Bandai, despite all of their other issues in terms of competitive play, I think Bandai does a pretty good job at local level award support, like prize support.
Mm-hmm.
I think Lorcana does a very good job as well. I've seen like people get like enchanted rares at local store championships.
Yeah.
Star Wars maybe, I think, does some good local stuff too. So all these other smaller card games, I think, do a really good job with locals, and I think Pokemon has the resources. And so I would urge Pokemon to do something like that, so that people at a local level don't have to stress about Worlds, because they're not going to make it, most of them.
And especially talking about One Piece. So we just had this past weekend a new series of tournament circuits start, these store regionals, where like
Mm,
stores applied to host this like mini regional in a sense. It was basically like 64 people, but like the point is there was only like 20 some stores across the country in America that got it. And I know like out of the four that applied in Las Vegas, only one of them got a store championship and was able to hold it. So like again, when you talk about like cups and challenges, like they need more systems of like higher level tournaments. Like this is a prime example, having these, and who knows, I mean, you could do it online too, but they got to fix the client first
yeah, I don't.
in regards to that.
I don't think the TCG will go back to anything online because, to your point, that requires the online client to always be perfectly functional.
Hmm.
And we know from experience, there's always one little glitch here and there. So it's probably best that they avoid that one.
I think personally, these changes are for the good. I know just about, I don't know what other way to say this, but like going backwards, quote unquote, right? Like
Mm,
making it harder for people to qualify will have a ton of backlash, right? Because, I mean,
yeah.
reasonably so. People wanted to qualify, and now it's much harder for them to qualify. But I think that should just drive a lot more people to focus on more so improving, right?
Yep.
Maximizing your opportunities, right? If you can only go to one or two regionals in a year, and now Worlds is slightly unreasonable, instead of focusing more on like, oh, I have to make top 1024 or whatever it is to get points at this major that I'm going to, instead try to focus a lot more of your energy on improving, and not saying that like, oh, if you do that, you'll automatically be in the top 125, because there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people across the country doing that same method. But I think overall, you'll see kind of an increase in the skill of players, especially because players are going to like shift their focus instead of like the top 125 to just kind of improving. And I don't know. I think that there's this like butterfly effect in a sense of, and it also depends on what they do for the local scene. I really hope they do stuff for locals. I am holding everything on that.
I mean, one thing, did you watch Andrew Mahone's video about this announcement?
I have not yet.
He agreed with you from our original take about like if you look at sports, because he also did a lot of I think he did
Yeah, he
competitive
was
running.
like he was like an NCAA champion in cross
Yeah.
country in Division 3.
So his point there was like similar to yours with swimming, right? Which is like, hey, it should be really hard to reach the pinnacle of your sport.
Hmm.
Um, and what he also said was if you have just a number that you're trying to hit and you can hit that number by just grinding out enough events, then that feels like not the right method to get a world's invite necessarily. Where instead, like, hey, top 125, yes, you have to be available to go to all of those events. You just do, right?
Hmm.
But that you also have to be good at all of those events. You have to have a good record. And Andrew's point was like, if you are not a top 200 player in your region, in the US and in Canada and in Europe, respectively, if you're not at that level of skill, then it doesn't make sense for you to go for the invite because you might just end up wasting a lot of time and money. And instead, a better thing for you to do is if you want to try that one day, go for it. But in the meanwhile, set smaller goals for yourself, like making your first day two at a regional, maybe getting top 64 at a regional if you're already at that level. Just trying to get yourself into a position where, like, once you can do that more consistently, then you'll feel like your skill as a player matches the goal of top 125, which I do think is a really nice frame of mind to be in.
Hmm.
So yeah, like it does put it out of reach for a lot of people, but to be frank, winning worlds should be out of reach for most people because
Yeah, qualifying for Worlds
right.
should be out of reach for most people, I feel like.
So, and I will say too, from an event management standpoint, having a fixed number like this and then combining that with all the Asian regions that have
Hmm.
sort of a fixed number of people they send to Worlds does make it much easier for them to say, hey, we are going to have 5 to 800 people exactly that. Like, that's the number that we actually hit on our episode, which is
Hmm.
like, if they land on a system that nets 5 to 800 players at Worlds, that feels manageable. That feels big enough to be a proper tournament without being too small or too large. Like a 2,500 person Worlds tournament would sound insane, to be honest.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think after reading through all of this, I'm still holding out hope like you for that local level bonus, but I understand where they're coming from.
And one of those things too, like you talk about like event management. Like I've mentioned time and time again that part of my full time career in life is like part of it is event management and like setting up events, setting up sport. And like, when you go to a college basketball game, I set a lot of that stuff up, and things like that. And you enjoy the game. Well, I helped, you know, set stuff up so you enjoy the game. And so I'm like, I try to think about as well, like when you just have the CP threshold of like 600 points is just an invite, me trying to go to a venue and then being like, all right, how many people do you expect to attend this event? And you're like, well, it could be 2,500, but it could also be 600. We're not sure. And so like the struggle with that, because if I'm a venue, right, and somebody comes up to me and they're like, yeah, we probably have like somewhere between 600 and 2,500, I'm like, no. Or if they say like a specific thing and then it's much smaller than that, then I'm kind of like, what the heck? Because if you prepare for the higher number, right,
Yeah, you have to.
You prepare for the highest number possible, because it's always better to be above expectations in a sense. But in that sense, you're probably cutting off other opportunities, right? Like as a venue. So like if you expect 2,500 people, but you're only getting 1,500 people, the part of the space, right? Another room, whether that's, the Pokemon Center room or, like vendors or something like that, you probably block off those spaces for them specifically instead of selling it to like another entity and stuff. So this, in my mind, this system is also a much safer and much more secure way to be able to get different venues. So I think inherently Worlds as a venue, I don't know like if in the past there's been problems with venues with Worlds, but I think it'll be a lot more organized. And I think as a kind of indirect effect, this method will just be much easier from an event organizing perspective, like you said, of just like security and being able to maintain in a sense.
Yeah. I will say, I hope that having a fixed number of people that can attend means that they can expand the number of spectator passes or
Oh
like
yeah.
cool side events. Cause like,
Hmm.
I don't know how much space they're renting and how they're coordinating all of that. But once you know your player size, you can be like, okay, how much space do we have left? How many, event organizer people are there to help? And that means we can have an extra 20% spectator passes, which is like, that seems cool.
Hmm.
So yeah. So that's
It'll be interesting to see.
yeah. That's really the news there. I will say Latin America definitely got hit pretty hard because they went from 299 invites to 100. So shout out to the Latin American player base. That's rough. And Oceania getting 20. There's some good. I mean, former world champion Henry Brand is from Oceania.
Yeah.
I think that he could definitely go for a top 20. I think he is skilled enough to do
Hmm.
that. But 20 is a very small number. Like 20 is less than the number of people that normally go to like a challenge here in New York. So
Hmm.
that's a little tight, but
Well,
we'll
I think
see.
like I think one of the things is like Oceania is a great region for
Mhm.
competitive, right? In terms of like the top level players are some of the best players in the world,
Yeah.
like Henry Brand Tonneson, Natalie Millar, excellent people. I probably left someone out right there, but I'm
Yeah.
just trying to continue the conversation. Um, I think there's kind of like this disparity in a sense of like the top players, like ones that I just mentioned, and then like the regular Joe Schmoes like you and I think there's, like I think it's quicker to hit that point. So I think 20, we'll see kind of the same people every single year for that. But I think top 20 as well, maybe it can incentivize some of those other people that maybe haven't taken the game as seriously to try to go for worlds, to make that next level of testing, to make that next level and trying to qualify in this top 20. Even though you say top 20 is not that big, it might be something that like, I think personally my friend Julian,
Mm.
OKJ Love, he's starting to take competitive a lot more seriously in recent years. So I think like this year, like he's one of those people that will decide, you know what, maybe I'll try to make that jump into top 20. Um,
Yeah.
so who know? I mean, who knows? It's interesting the different effects that this could have on like the game in a positive manner for the
Yeah.
competitive side.
But that's the official news
Mm-hmm.
for Worlds next year. We still don't know where Worlds 2025 is going to be. But if
Wait,
you
don't
want,
we? Isn't it? Oh no, we know
no, we know,
2026.
yeah, we talked about
That's right.
we know. So we don't know where the next year is going to be, but it'll be interesting to see how it all pans out. But yeah. That's about it, though, Jake. Is there anything else on the radar? Any other updates?
Sean, what is your prediction that Pokemon is going to announce right before we release this episode?
Oh
What's your
gosh.
prediction? What's Pokemon going to be announced? I need you to go into the future.
Oh gosh. I we have the next set already, so they've already announced that.
Mm-hmm.
We have Shrouded Fable, and then we have Stellar Crown. So it's not going to be a set announcement. I don't think they're going to do. Well, you know what? They might do a locals announcement because locals, like, I don't. Maybe they'll do that at Worlds though. I don't.
We do know that the local scene has started.
It
The
has.
competitive season,
Yes.
for 2025 has already started. It started July 1st. I've seen people already posting, like, oh yeah, I got a cup win, got a challenge win, number one in North America,
Right.
already. So, if you are someone that just loves events, maybe you don't have to be someone that is trying to qualify for Worlds. But if you just want to play in official events, they are started back up at this point.
I don't think there'll be any major announcements from Pokemon. I think, if anything, maybe we'll get a Pokemon Pocket announcement, but I think they're going to hold any major things now for Worlds. Like, any major news is going to be a Worlds announcement at this point, in my mind.
I was going to say, I just pulled up the Pokemon TCG Twitter account. No major news has broken at the time of this recording at 7:45 a.m. Pacific time on Monday.
Yeah, I feel like anything truly interesting is going to be a hold for Worlds. But I do think at Worlds we're going to get major announcements about next year's themes for the card game, next year's sets. I think we're going to probably get local update announcements there, like for competitive play. I think Worlds will be a big news drop. Probably next year's World location, obviously, as well. So yeah,
I hope they do next year's World location since we already know 2026.
Yeah.
Like, it confuses me every time when we talk about Worlds.
Well, they didn't announce it, right? The venue announced it. So it's like,
the venue announced it.
Spoilers. But yeah, that's about it. I will also say they did announce the slate of regionals already for the first half.
They did announce some of those. Let's
pull that up
real quick.
Okay. Can you send me a link, Jake?
So they can start their calendar. I am trying.
I will say the first one, the first regional in the U.S. is going to be Baltimore in September. So it will be probably, I want to say it's like roughly a month after Worlds. There's going to be a regional in Baltimore. I have no idea if I'm going to go or not. That's the close one to me. But like, maybe I'll be there, maybe I won't. I have no clue at this point.
I Pokemon Regional 2025 schedule. Well, it's technically 2024. Dextero. Oh, okay. I guess we're going to Dexerto. Okay. So September 13th through the 15th is Baltimore. So that one that you specifically mentioned, those are the official dates for that. And that is the first one. So make sure to check your calendars for that. And also, I think it's worth mentioning that we can talk about like some of these on here, but there will be more that will be added for the championships. There are more that are going to be coming. I think believe
it's a tough one. I think there's going to be more for the second half of the year. I think for the first half of the year, if you actually look at the calendar and you like overlay North American, European, Latin American championship things like regionals and things, I think there's not very many weekends that are free anymore. And I think
yeah.
And because Pokemon has been doing a pretty consistent job of streaming every event from their main page, that is the limiting factor now in the number of regionals that can be held. So I think that we'll have fewer regionals this year too than we did last year. Because it looks like right now there are 4 for each region other than Oceania. There are 4 for Latin America, 4 for Europe, 4 for North America.
None in Oceania. Feels bad.
Yeah. So who knows? Oceania usually only gets maybe 1 or 2 anyways. So, and OCIC is no longer a thing, sadly. So yeah.
That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. But so I will say, getting that top 125, it really is going to be about getting those best finish at regionals. That's where the money is in my mind. So
it's yeah, especially like if they're lowering regionals, it's going to be about how well you do at the regionals, I think is kind of their emphasis on this. But regionals are scheduled, at least in North America. We'll mention these: Baltimore, Louisville, Sacramento, and Toronto.
Yep.
So those are the 4 areas. That Sacramento one looks like it's on Thanksgiving weekend.
It is the weekend before.
November 20, the weekend before? What do you mean? It's the 22nd through the 24th for anyone who's curious about why I'm saying why.
I watched Rahul's
Is it really
video.
The weekend before?
I watched Rahul's video about this. I watched a few people's videos about all of this information. He had the same thought. And I think Thanksgiving this year is on like the 28th or something. It's a little later. So, yeah.
Oh, it is the 4th Thursday, isn't it? The 28th is the 4th Thursday of November. I think that's when Thanksgiving is, right? The 4th Thursday?
I don't know the rationale, but it is the weekend before Thanksgiving. So, yeah, there's a lot going on here. And the awkward part is if you want to go to LAIC and then also if you want to go to the first IC and also go to the regional afterwards, it's the 2 weekends in a row. So there's LAIC in Sao Paulo, and then you're flying all the way back to Sacramento to make that.
I think a lot of this stuff too is like they're trying not to have people just be like go to every single one. Yeah, kind of having these like odd back-to-back weekends of like different countries. Is to try to like not have, the one person go to every single one. But I think they're still going to have that inherently, because if you're chasing top 125, especially if there's like stipends involved.
I will say, if you are a North American player and you're not necessarily going for a Worlds invite, I think the people going for Worlds invites will go to LAIC. They are gonna get those points because international championship points are crazy. So I wonder if the Sacramento regional will be weirdly less competitive because all of the like top tier players will go to LAIC for those points. I'm sure some of them will then come to Sacramento, but I do think that back-to-back weekend thing is quite grueling to go to from Sao Paulo on the eastern coast of Brazil, like eastern Brazil, all the way to the west coast of the United States is a disaster of a travel schedule. So that one could be a pretty chill regional comparatively. Just saying.
NAIC is happening June 13th through the 15th in New Orleans again.
Yep.
So make sure to set your schedules for that. I will try my best to be there this year if I can. No promises, just depends on things. But anyways, Sean, is there anything else?
That's it. I'm glad I remember the regional schedule. I was like, oh, that's news.
Yeah, I was like, we should probably like pinpoint that a little bit, and we can go into that kind of on a later date as well as we get closer to those times. And you know, when those events happen, we'll tell you what the best decks are. We'll tell you all the hottest news in that. But Sean, thank you so much for joining me today. Good to have us back in full force right before I move to another house. So I'm gonna get back to doing that and getting some stuff prepared for that and making sure that I have next week's episode ready. But thank you so much for listening to the Metapod Podcast. I'm Jake, that's Sean, and we'll see you next week.